Welcome back. You're watching CNBC-TV18 Global AI Lens from Bharat Mandapam. The Israel government is leading a 30-member delegation to New Delhi for the India AI Impact Summit. We caught up with 3 key members of the delegation to speak about the India-Israel cooperation for the future on artificial intelligence. Let's listen in.
I have with me Gal Zohar, who is the head of research of the Israeli Employment Service. And remember, the impact of AI on employment is a very important issue for all governments across the world. We have Sarit Felber, who is a senior director, Ministry of Justice in the Israeli government. Again, the legal aspects, the regulatory framework for AI is a very important point as well. And finally, Maya Sherman, who is the innovation attaché at the Israeli embassy in New Delhi. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Maya, let me begin by asking you, what's the key message that the Israeli government is bringing to the summit? Israel has recently formed a directorate for artificial intelligence. What's the purpose? What's the larger message?
So for us, as we are aware, the relationship between the countries have growing for years. And we have the traditional layers of collaboration ranging from agriculture to water. The thing is, and that's been the beauty about the relations between the countries, is to see how we can harness AI technologies in strengthening these relations. We've been working constantly on tech diplomacy initiatives, connecting government to government experts, university exchanges as well. And for us, the future is there. We want to see how we can digitize the traditional domains where we had these collaborations, how we can use AI in agriculture, how we can use AI in water applications across the center of excellence across the countries. And we're very glad for the delegation that we have, as we see a lot of potential in discussions around AI and governance with the recent AI regulations coming from AT in India. And Sarit will be able, of course, to share more from her side. But needless to say, future of work, one of the most interesting verticals on the Israeli side, but clearly in the Indian landscape. So for us, we see this as a wonderful window to deepening on these engagements and to connect our wonderful ministries to the work being done in the country.
All right. Gal, if I were to ask you about how you see the impact of artificial intelligence on jobs in Israel. Now, Israel is a small country in terms of population. India is much bigger. So we will have to really cater for a much larger section of people when we're thinking about the AI impact on jobs. What's been the job displacement like in Israel, and how the government is upskilling people?
One of the main thing about the future of work and skills in Israel in relates to Gen AI and the introduction. We can see that there is a lot of impact on the labor market for now, but this is just the beginning. We know the labor market is changing, and what we need to do in the meantime, while the labor market is changing in the future of work, we need to understand more what's happened in the future in relates to skills and work. And what we do at the Israel Employment Services, for instance, is how to moderate between job seekers and the vacancies in order to fit them to the next level of the Gen AI, because we know Gen AI and Gen AI in general will penetrate every part of the labor market, and what we need to do is to change the way we grasp things about AI, and the Israeli government is putting a lot of efforts in order to make sure that the lifelong learning skills by the government will introduce a new program in order to elevate most of the people in Israel in order to fit to this new level of AI.
So, Gal, when it comes to upskilling your population, preparing them for generative AI or agentic AI, how much of this upskilling is happening at home through your own resources? How much are you importing from abroad to upskill your population?
I think it goes both ways. Well, on one hand, what we do is actually grasp a lot of things that happen around the world, and we take new technologies and adopt new technology. I think Israel is one of the major countries and the first countries to adopt technologies around the world that allows us to elaborate. And on the other hand, what we do in Israel is how to upskill and reskill all of the people in Israel in order to fit them to this new level of AI by moderating between both sides of the sphere.
Right. Sarit, if I were to ask you about the Ministry of Law and Justice in Israel, and what's the current view on how to regulate artificial intelligence? Has Israel come up with its own law, a separate law to regulate AI?
So, hi, and thank you for having us. So it's wonderful to be here. No, Israel currently is not working on a law, and it's by choice. As you said, Israel is a small country, which means that we are a small market. Companies will not develop products and services to be tailored to the Israeli unique regulation. Israel, as we do in other products and services, has to see what's happened in the world and to adopt this regulation to Israel. So we won't create blockage of services for services and products to arrive to the Israeli product. The question, I think the most challenging question, is what we do in the meantime. We want to keep people safe. We want to keep public interest in our mind. So what we're doing at the moment is in Israel we have what we call a sector-specific approach to AI. Each regulator, each ministry has to make sure that their current regulations gives answer to the risk and challenges of AI. And I would say more than that, each regulator must also check that they can harness also the potential of AI. If it's in finance, if it's in health, we don't want to create regulation that will prevent from this revolution to empower people and make their life better.
Right.
So we're not working on a regulation, but we do work to make sure that in the meantime, as we look to see what's happening in the world, the public interest will remain safe.
Right. So every ministry of the Israeli government has its own AI department?
Every ministry has, if it's the regulator or if it's the legal department, are examining the impact of AI on the service that they are regulating, and they are supposed to give answer. If it's in consumer, if it's in finance, health, trying to think of other example that we're working on at the moment, in welfare,
Right.
in everything.
So, Sarah, one more question that I would like to ask you. When it comes to dealing with deepfakes or manipulated pictures of women, morphed pictures of women being put out on social media, how are you dealing with social media companies, and how are you tackling the origin of the problem? People who are actually posting that content in the first place.
It's a very complicated issue, and it's you talked about like the criminal aspect of things, but Israel is approaching elections, for example, in a couple of months. So the fake, the disinformation is across a lot of. It raises a lot of challenges, not only in what you mentioned, and it's a challenge that I think we have to tackle globally. One thing that we do, for example, is Israel has a department that can have the authority to contact social media and to ask to remove content that is illegal, if it's illegal because of terror or if it's illegal because, for example, it's people without license who are trying to sell you medical advices or investment advices.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Maya, I would like to ask you about how much is the Israel government spending in artificial intelligence, spending in supporting startups, companies?
So I would say, and I think it's not just...
And if you can give us a scale of how much the investments have gone up over the last few years.
So I would say that, first of all, AI is becoming a transformative pillar for our strategy across ministries and across government. We're seeing this. And particularly for startups, and we're seeing this all across, there are different initiatives trying to see how we can either cultivate startups in universities working on AI. There are different initiatives around that. So the Ministry of Education is working constantly around these domains. And still, a lot of our startup accelerators are also investing quite a bit on this domain. I would say that you would see across the industry that for us, it's not, of course, just AI, meaning we're seeing investments and exits coming on cyber and AI startups that we also have a very good representation coming today. AI 121, one of our biggest AI companies in the space in Israel. The thing is, there are plenty of examples, and you would see that the beauty is because, again, as a smaller ecosystem, we know how to get all our stakeholders to work together. So government is supporting startups, supporting the acceleration programs to make sure that AI is a strong and meaningful vertical. So it's quite, I would say, a big domain for us in terms of the investment, in terms of the strategy that Israel is currently leading. That's why we're having such a delegation coming.
If I were to ask you about India-Israel cooperation on startups related to AI, what would that be, and how would we see it unfold this year?
So first of all, we've been doing a lot of things, but the thing is we're seeing this summit to be able to maximize it. That's why we are sending such a big delegation. we have a joint fund of the Israel Innovation Authority and DST India. We've been investing a few hundreds of crores to support Indian and Israeli startups to work together. AI is the main vertical, clearly. So we're already doing a lot of work around that. We've been initiating different AI boot camps between Israel and Indian startups over the years. We've been bringing experts of both countries. And again, we have this existing mechanisms in place to be able to support AI startups around this domain. The thing is, and that's the reason why we're bringing such an important government delegation, is to be able to expand to additional domains. Education, future of work, law, especially with the recent deepfake regulation in India, we are expecting more discussions about this from our angle as well, as we're taking a more sectoral approach. So for us, again, we have very robust relations between India and Israel, but the thing is, we want now to be able to expand it to additional interests in terms of the domain and areas of scope.
All right, my final set of questions. What do you think India and Israel can do together in terms of upskilling our populations? What kind of knowledge sharing can we have?
I think one of the main advantage of working together, and that's what the one advantage for us in Israel and we think in India as well, is how to find way to work with startups, know how to reach the community, how to reach people, how to allow every person in Israel and in India need to go through an AI training. Everybody needs to use AI. And I think that's one of the main reasons we need to keep people ahead with us, not keep people to stay stuck at the other end. So we need to work together. We know that people are not exposed to AI, even in rural areas, etc. And we know that in rural areas, AI will become very relevant for them as well in the next few years. So we need to know how to work together in order to reach all the population and how to and to do it smartly, doing a lot of training, finding the best way, using startups, using all of the community, working with the community, allowing us to understand to work with local communities in order how to reach each one of the persons needs to go through AI, because AI is here. And that's what we do at the Israel Employment Services, and we've just established a center for AI for and future of work in order how to fix that, and that's a good way to work together, and we think this is a good opportunity for us as well.
Seret, on behalf of the Israeli Ministry of Law and Justice, where do you think India and Israel can cooperate in terms of sharing best practices on a regulatory framework and the rules of road when it comes to AI?
So exactly as you said, I think first of all is that you have much more experience than us. You have, and I think working together to understand what works and what doesn't. Sandboxing, for example, we're great believing in experimentation and sandboxing before setting regulation that will be hard to change in the future. And we know how technology evolves faster than the law. So I think the ongoing discussion on what works, what doesn't work, and I also think that something that is very important is that how we implement safety by design. Lawyers are, we might lose our work in a couple of years as well. But I think the ongoing discussion between lawyers and the tech people, how do we implement already in the design the safety feature, it's something that we can work on together.
All right, Maya Sherman, Seret and Gal, thank you so much for being with us here on CNBC-TV18.
All right, that's all we could pack in on this special broadcast on artificial intelligence. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.